Oh yeah, baby. Oh, what have we got here today? Right here on the Sharkadoodle-Doo show, Sharkalama Ding Dong at 1-800-449-8255. Clark the Shark Talk Radio. Growing, mildly but steadily growing in popularity. The Sharky Show. I'm trying to re-put back together yet another YouTube account that's been banned and deleted. All my music, talk radio. Somebody out there is always offended by Sharky or something. I don't know, you guys, or maybe YouTube's like, you're not allowed to you're not allowed to do that. You can't put those links. I'm like, whatever. I just, the good Lord is like, Sharky, if they ban and delete you, you lost a bunch of great ideas that were funny and irreverent and ironic and witty. And, the robotic AI-brained liberal Democrat people at YouTube, they don't care. And now you're noticing that Republicans are AI. When you talk to them at Starbucks, they're like, dude, let the free market decide, Sharky. And I'm like, what, dude, you're sounding like a Democrat now, Mr. Starbucks Republican. Why is the rent so high? And he's like, but dude, we're meeting the demands of the free market. And I'm all, wait a minute, Mr. Republican guy. So you probably like the swarm of people coming into the country, the 10 million new voters, because you don't care if they vote for you or not. Isn't that true, Mr. Rich, wealthy Republican guy out in Rancho Santa Fe or Palos Verdes? You just want more cheap labor, more people, more high rent. Why, you're no better than the Democrats who are for massive socialism, cradle to graveism, dude, you fucking name it ism. And they're like, dude, I just want to get a latte at 1-800-449-8255. That's right. If you meet anyone out there with soul or, I don't know what you call it, just originality or something, dude, they can talk. They don't talk like a robot. They don't answer every question with, so... You're like, dude, what street is, where do I find Main and 4th? And they're like, so you take, dude, when someone starts an answer with so, you don't ever start an answer. If someone asks you a question, don't fucking answer it with the word so. That's a sign you're an AI humanoid. You're not a human. You are either a Republican or Democrat robot who drinks coffee at Starbucks. Their fucking coffee sucks, by the way, dude. I'd rather just drink Folgers, in my own house and save $8 on a fucking cup of coffee. But fuck Starbucks. I'm not talking about them in this review. I'm talking about one of the greatest bands ever, and it's a band that goes by 3 letters, you guys. BOC. Of course, I mean Blue Oyster Cult. One of Sharky's favorite bands ever since I was 13, 1978. I was a little late to the game, dude. 2 years before that, when Sharky was 11, this band would release one of the greatest songs in history. Of course, Don't Fear, and then in parentheses, The Reaper. But if you really listen to BOC, you'll discover that's like their worst song. All their other albums and songs are like better. And I love the fact, and I love the way that you can't put your finger on what it is that BOC really does. I mean, you could make an argument they're just a hard rock heavy metal band, but then they do so many mellow and weird songs, and they kind of like Uriah Heep. They mix in a lot of shit. There's a lot of diversity. And sometimes later on in their career, and even early sometimes, they do kind of these lame songs that sound like where they're not even doing the style they normally do. I can't say that BOC normally does anything. These guys are so eclectic and just off balance and off kilter. They're always trying something new, and yet they still come off sounding like BOC. If you hear a BOC song, you might automatically go, oh, dude, that's BOC. Maybe not, though, because they mix it up, especially later on in their career, you guys. But, the album Mirrors is really weird. There's like girl backing vocals, and I don't know, some of it almost sounds like disco or like Pat Benatar. It sounds lame or something. And yet you're like, dude, this is kind of fucking cool. It's like new wave, or I don't know, maybe post-punk trying to be melodic. And they have a lot of shit like that. Of course, later on in the 80s, they would sort of devolve into one of those, keyboardsy, bands trying to get on the radio with an adult contempo song, with a saxophone. And sometimes the lyrics were a little too deep and for the song's own good or something, but maybe not. They do meet this thing, dude, often. And then as time would go by, history and time would be cruel to Blue Oyster Cult, because just like the Tubes, when these guys get into the mid 80s, moving into the 90s, they lose most of their audience, but they didn't lose me, Clark the Shark. I've seen these guys live like 6 times back in the late 80s, 90s. And they were awesome, dude. I'm not sure if they had all the people in the band. Probably not. I know Bouchard wasn't at least 2 of the gigs I saw. But, they had that keyboard guy who's always smoking the cigarette. And, of course, Roser, who's also known as Buck Dharma. I hate that name. And Eric Bloom. The 2 kind of main guys, they're like the Glimmer twins of BOC, but everybody is involved here. Lanier and the Bouchards, and it's always a democracy or something. A lot of people think it's just Eric Bloom and his backup band. That's kind of true, but not really, because Buck Dharma, Roser, whatever his name is, does a lot. I always knew the guy as Roser because when I was a kid, back in the 70s, we called him that. And then over time, they're like, dude, Shark, it's Buck Dharma. And I'm like, I don't like, dude, that sounds like a lame underground punk band that plays the Anti-Club or, Hong Kong Cafe or Raji's on a Thursday. I don't like that name. I never did. I always call him Roser. And just like, Eric Bloom doesn't need a moniker. He doesn't need a nickname. He's that guy with the glasses and the beard. He's kind of like the Jeff Lynne of BOC. But anyway, on this first album, 1972, probably recorded in 1971, when I was just a mere first grader at Parkway School in Torrance, just a wee little lad. Of course, I was too young for BOC then, but as I grew, I heard some of these songs. Of course, that classic that's on this album that we all know. I grew up listening to that one and others. But when BOC did do Don't Fear the Reaper, even though a lot of people don't like that song, particularly BOC fans, because it diverts away so much from what BOC does and what they're known for. And yet even us, we got to admit, in its own way, it's fucking killer. That song made BOC into an overnight sensation. Like, they worked really hard for years, kind of going nowhere too, but they were, they had their cult crowd, their devotees. But then when they did that song on that album, Agents of Fortune, they became like REO Speedwagon or Foreigner or something, or The Who or something. Like they got really big. And I was like, well, dude, that song doesn't sound like BOC, that's just that one song. But pretty soon, everybody at Newton Middle School and South High and Torrance, and everywhere I went, St. Lawrence Church in Redondo, they were like, Shark, BOC, don't fear the Reaper, bro. And I'd be like, yeah, it's a cool song, but they don't like sound like that. That's an aberration, like a anomaly or something. It's a one-time fling. And after that, they did try to recreate that song a few times and they couldn't quite do it. But they still, other than that, they mainly kept trying to come up with new original ideas. And, you could love or hate Mirrors. A lot of people hate it. Me, Sharky, it's so interesting, I can't really hate it or something. And I say that about every BOC album, you guys. There's always something interesting. There's a bunch of mediocre or shitty music always with BOC, but then there's these fucking killer songs that are so awesome, and it becomes like a band with really killer shit and kind of mundane, like run-of-the-mill shit at the same time. And I think that's why a huge audience like playing the Forum or playing Dodger Stadium, I think that's why that eluded BOC, not eluded, they're different words. That was elusive for BOC, and they ended up kind of in the Tubes bin where they're playing the Strand in Redondo or the Coach House or the Belly Up, just little clubs, and they're BOC, they're legends with huge songs. These guys they basically wrote a Stairway to Heaven in 1976. Roser wrote it and sang it. It's not even Bloom. That's what's really fucking weird. But we're going to go all the way back to when I was a wee lad. I was only 6 or 7 years old, 1971, 72. This fucking album here, the debut album, Blue Oyster Cult. And of course, it has the little logo symbol of the twisted cross, upside down question mark there against like I guess it's a bunch of doors or windows. It's really fucking rad. I love this cover. And it's just a trip. It's like a bad dream. And of course, the little symbol, their little insignia, if you will, if you look at it if you're stoned, like you smoke a lot of weed and you stare at it for like an hour, all it is a B, an O, and a C. The upside down question mark's a B, and the little dot in the middle is the O. And then in the upper right of it, that's the C. And there's also a backwards C to give it that little rebel, mystical, evil, somebody would point this out to me back in the 80s because I was like, I knew what it meant, but the other people are like, you can only tell like if you're stoned, Shark. You gotta really smoke a lot of weed and you'll figure it out, or drink a bunch of beers, or drink a bunch of vodka or peppermint schnapps, and dude, it becomes clear what the symbol means. And I was like, dude, I know it's a BOC. Come on. And they're like, yeah, but it's satanic and evil. It's anti-Catholic. It's anti-Christian, that little logo. And then Eric Bloom's like, no, dude, he's like, I don't go to church or anything, but the logo is not anti-Christian at all. It just says BOC. That's all it means. It's supposed to be some ancient thing that means Blue Oyster Cult. This guy designed the BOC insignia. Their buddy, the artist, who did a lot of these covers too, and he, he's like, "Can't you see, bro? It just means BOC." But anyway, you guys, this album, the first album, 1972, and I would say it's like hard rock in general. There's even like Black Sabbath stuff. the first track, of course, is awesome. All of uh, side one, it kind of all runs together, you guys. Transmaniacom, Maniacon, MC. They start boogieing fast, and the drumming's really killer by Bouchard on all these songs. And they're proving they're great guitarists, bassists, everything. Like they're out to show you on side one world that maybe if they're not the world's greatest songwriters, they can play instruments. And they blow away a lot of bands, you guys, that are great bands. I mean, I think BOC has a lot more going under the hood than Led Zeppelin has. I'm not kidding. They might not have that catchy, grabby songwriting or atmospheric thing. I don't know what it is that Led Zeppelin has. I can't put my finger on it, but they have it and BOC doesn't. But on this album, I'm on the lamb, but I ain't no sheep. Each one of these songs on side one, I'm like, I'm just like, it's rock and roll. But this third song, Then Came the Last Days of May, is interesting. You got to hear that song and Stairway to the Stars. You're just like, you can see why BOC built a cult following with this hard rocking Black Sabbath. I even get like a vibe like Cream or The Who or everything rolled in. They haven't really developed that weird BOC thing yet on this album, but it is slowly coming. You can sense it. Before the Kiss, a red cap. It's a family show. Donald Roser, dude, Buck Dharma, whatever. That's a family show, you guys. Before the Kiss, a red cap. That sounds pornographic or something. Maybe it isn't. It might just mean eating a mushroom, or not, instead of a death cap, you eat a fucking like red cap. But it's fucking all good, dude. And once again, you'll see in the writing of, everyone gets involved. It's that BOC democracy where Eric Bloom and the Bouchards and Roser, and then this guy, Sandy Pearlman, that's like their producer guy. He chimes in here on a couple of tracks, 3 of them or 4 of them are, dude, he's involved with BOC. I wonder if that lady that's Mrs. BOC is on here. I don't see her here yet, but side one is hard rocking Black Sabbath, Alice Cooper, Zeppelin. It's got the brains of The Who. Then Came the Last Days of May is probably the best song on side one. Of course, the very first song is awesome, you guys. I love the drumming by Bouchard, too. I love the hard rocking, just like they're showing you, dude, we ain't no pussies. We're fucking, if we do write a mellow song. I want you guys to see that movie called The Stoned Age. It's so fucking killer, where they talk about like how Don't Fear the Reaper is like a pussy song. And BOC put that out, just to get on the Billboard charts or whatever. But I don't know, dude. That song is so deep and technical and weirdly meaning. It was meant to be, you guys. Even to this day, there are hardcore BOC people like me that we like this album, the first album, when they were just rocking hard, or they're in that vein of rocking hard or something on side one of the first BOC album. Dude, Screams is killer, dude. I mean, whenever Joe Bouchard is like singing, I love that. She's as beautiful as a foot, you just gotta hear it. If you like boogie woogie hard rock and shit, dude, this is kind of side two. They get into that Uriah Heep thing where it's hard rock, but then they have this mystical, magical thing where you feel that BOC thing that you know is going to be weird on forthcoming subsequent albums later, where they're letting you know, yeah, we're going to be weird. We're going to rock hard on a lot of songs, Sharky, but then we're going to do weird shit. And they do, you guys. But track number 3, this has to go down as one of the greatest songs ever in the history of rock and roll music, maybe in music in general. Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll. And of course, Albert Bouchard, the drummer. And you know me, Clark the Shark from GE. I love it when a drummer sings. But when a drummer sings a classic, and then he can also play it live and not make any mistakes and just kick its ass like this. I love Albert Bouchard, by the way, you guys. He's unbelievable on drums. He kind of doesn't get the cred and respect that he deserves. And he fucking deserves it, you guys. But BOC, long before Don't Fear the Reaper, they had this classic, Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll. And a lot of people say, well, it's kind of just a rewrite of Black Sabbath's, The Wizard or something. Or it sounds too much like 18 by Alice Cooper, But, and it does, but there's also something about this amazing, incredible rock anthem that's one of the greatest songs in the history. It's right there with Satisfaction and Pinball Wizard and Black Dog and, Ticket to Ride. And it's right there, baby, with like Sympathy for the Devil to me. Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll. Now admit it, you've sat there in the bathtub taking a hot bath and this song is playing and you're singing it, baby. All of it, not just that part. You know all the words to this classic song. Workshop of the Telescopes. Awesome. Last song on the album. Killer, you guys. It's probably my favorite BOC album, you guys. And that being said, I wish this album was better or something. Like, I wish every song was, Cities on Flame, but and then I don't. I'm like, I fucking love it just the way it is. Right here on the Clark the Shark Show, 1-800-449-8255 from the fabulous, amazing, unbelievable golden EIB Sharkerphone. Baby, where it's a sharkerphone, it's not a microphone, and it's shark casting. Never call it broadcasting. Because when I'm talking about the debut album, 1972, on Columbia Records by BOC, Blue Oyster Cult, talking about one of the greatest hard rock / heavy metal albums ever recorded by a band that would kind of leave that style behind as they went through history and evolved. And they would go kind of like adult contempo or mellow, I don't know, easy rock or like easy listening or something, and yet mix in a few hard, heavy tracks too along the way. BOC, you guys, they lost their audience over time. But maybe for the artistic credibility and for the artsy-fartsy things they had to do, it was worth it, you guys. To be the original groundbreaking breakthrough shit that is BOC, sometimes you have to shed part of your audience to do that. As I, Clark the Shark, know full well with GE, I kind of had to leave hard rock behind too, even though I kept on rocking hard, but maybe kept getting more melodic. And perhaps that's what BOC tried to do, maybe failed, and in some cases succeeded. I'm not sure, you guys. All I know is I ended up seeing BOC at the Strand in Redondo, or at like the Belly Up or something. Like, dude, you shouldn't be seeing BOC at a saloon or at like a country club. You shouldn't even see these guys at a state fair or any side stage. These guys have so many awesome songs. They should be headlining. They should be the fucking headliner. But a lot of the people who were in BOC are either dead or gone, or they're as time went on, they weren't in the band anymore. Things like that will hurt a band too, because the audience wants everybody in that band. It's kind of like Kiss. The crowd wants Peter Criss, even if he's not the world's greatest drummer. There's a lot of purists that say, Gene Simmons and Paul is one thing, but you got to have all the other guys, Ace Frehley, or it ain't Kiss. Well, it's like that with BOC too. It's fine and dandy to have Eric Bloom and Roser, / Buck Dharma, but it's like you just wish these guys could live forever. And we human beings can't, you guys. We're only here for 70, 75, 80 years. And then we're gone, baby. We're out of here. Just like me right now, Clark the Shark. But I want you to buy this album at iTunes, Spotify, Amazon. And if you're just a little kid, I want you to get into BOC. If you were born in 2002 and you're only 21 in 2023, November, right now, I want you to go buy this album and all albums by Blue Oyster Cult, baby. And you tell them you heard it from Clark the Shark. These first 3 albums, Secret Treaties, dude, you got to get into these and listen to them. And you will see why they built the cult following. And then later they built the arena following with, Godzilla and all that shit. The big songs they would do. But it also seems like you're always saying these guys have so much music, but they don't have that many good songs. If you really use a magnifying glass and you dig into it, you will realize that BOC has like 15 fucking awesome songs. They got enough for a whole concert and an encore, you guys. But if you dig even deeper, you'll realize every BOC song on every album has something. They do, you guys, and they're not just hard rock or metal or bluesy, heavy rock. They aren't that. You realize and you learn that just like the Tubes and a lot of bands, they get weird and they start experimenting, sometimes to their detriment, sometimes not for their own good. But me, Clark the Shark, I always appreciate it when bands experiment and do weird shit. Right here on the Clark the Shark Show, you guys, buy this album by Blue Oyster Cult, the debut album from America's band, baby. BOC, Blue Oyster Cult. Whenever you see that symbol, remember, it's evil.